Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Delia Valles Rosales, and I am at Texas A&M at Kingsville, and I am one of the NSF HSI STEM Resource Hub members. I co-host this webinar series with Dr. Marta Desmond, and she is at New Mexico State University. I would like to welcome you to our first webinar of the fall 2023 webinar series. They focus on celebrating and learning from successful NSF HSI awardees. Today's topic is about online adaptation to promote student success. A little bit of housekeeping is that this webinar will last 1 hour. And today we have 3 webinar speakers, and I will introduce them in a little bit. And we like to have approximately between 15 to 20 minutes available for questions at the end of their presentations. Today's topic, if you have a question related to the topics and the presentations, please use the Q&A section of the Zoom framework. And also, if you have a question related to technical issues with Zoom, use the chat. So we want to use 2 different things, and we really don't want to combine these 2 things. So all of the questions are in the Q&A. So Dr. Marta Desmond and I will be curating the questions at the end of the presentations, and sometimes if we don't have enough time to answer all of these questions, we will be posting the answers in our portal. And we highly encourage everybody to join our network, and we will be posting our website in the chat room in a little bit. One thing that we really would like to remind you is that we have a survey that we would like everybody to answer at the end of the presentations. And this survey doesn't take more than 5 minutes. And what we like to do is to definitely get your feedback. And this feedback is very useful because it is a part of the report that we normally do for the National Science Foundation, and also to measure our program outcomes. It is a great pleasure to introduce you to the 3 speakers this afternoon. One of the speakers is Dr. Frank Gomez, and he is the Executive Director of STEMnet. It is a multi-campus consortium based at the California State University Office of the Chancellor, where he has led STEM initiatives for the 23 campus at the California State University system since 2019. He's also a professor of chemistry at Cal State LA, and he's been in there since 1994. He receives a bachelor degree in chemistry and also a doctorate degree in chemistry from UCLA. He has been the fellow at Harvard University, and he got this fellowship from 1991 to 1994. The fellowship is called Damon Ronian Walter Winchell Cancer Center Fund Postdoctoral Fellow. Dr. Gomez research focuses on developing microfluidic point-of-care diagnostic devices, fuel cells, and batteries. He has mentored more than 140 students and postdocs, and some of them have been from underrepresented groups. He has also published more than 130 articles in this field. He has been awarded with more than $21 million in research funding, and he has also collaborated through as an executive director of the STEMnet in other grants, and they have been awarded with more than $50 million in funds. Our second speaker is Dr. Wei Wu, and Dr. Wei Wu is an associate professor and chair of the Department of Construction Management at Lyell's College of Engineering at California State University in Fresno. He received his bachelor's degree of engineering in Built Environment and Equipment Engineering from Hunan University in China in 2004. He has a Master of Science in Environmental Change and Management from the University of Oxford in the UK. He has also a doctorate of philosophy in design construction and planning from the University of Florida. He got this degree in 2010. Dr. Wood's teaching interest includes construction graphics, design, build project delivery, building information modeling, advanced planning and pre-construction and construction management senior capstone. He received a 2018 Teaching Excellence Award of the Associated Schools of Construction, which is in the region number 7, and the 2019 Provost Award in Innovation of Fresno State. Dr. Wu's research focuses on building information modeling, cyber learning, extended reality, and construction and engineering education. He has published more than 70 articles and conference proceedings in these areas. Dr. Wu's research has been funded by regional and federal agencies, including the National Science Foundation, specifically in the area of extended reality. Our third speaker is Dr. Ana Barral, and she is a professor of biology at National University. This is a private university in San Diego, California, serving mostly non-traditional students. She got her doctorate degree in medical cell biology at the University of Linköping, Sweden, and completed postdoctoral studies at the La Jolla Institute for Allergy and Immunology in San Diego. Her experience also includes working in the private sector at a startup biotech company. In addition, at the National University, she's the program director of the Associate of Science in Human Biology and coordinator of the non-majors General Biology and Microbiology courses. Her current research interests focus on science education research, particularly cures. She has been an active participant of well-established cure frameworks such as genomics, education partnerships in Antini Earth. In 2018, the project titled Using Ocean Plastic Research to Increase Student Engagement and Persistence in Biology was awarded. This project resulted in impacting 442 students from non-major and majors in biology. They were participants on the Cure Center around microbes attached to floating ocean plastics through authentic learning with extended reality. Thank you very much for participating with us in this webinar this afternoon, and we really appreciate your work. Go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delia, for the wonderful introduction, and thanks HSI STEM for inviting us to be here and share what we do with all of you. So I will go ahead and just let Frank start to introduce about STEMnet and kind of talk some background information about how this idea was actually conceived, and later we'll follow up actually giving more information about this project specifically. Frank?
Thanks, Wei, and thanks, Delia, for the extensive introductions to all of us. So my role here is going to provide a little bit of context, a little bit of background as to how this successful project actually became successful. First, a little bit of background on STEMnet. So there are 10 multi-campus consortia across the California State University system, which makes up 23 campuses. And STEMnet is the newest one, having its being the inaugural executive director, and it's having came to be in 2019. Really, our focus is to empower the STEM leaders across the system and to harness their expertise in pedagogy, research, and grants to really ensure the success of our students and faculty. Our vision is driven by our really strong commitment to student success, where STEMnet plays that catalyst in transforming the CSU into that champion of inclusiveness with regards to research and learning, and that provides our STEM students with those opportunities so that they can lead very successful and worthwhile careers in both STEM and non-STEM related fields. Next slide, please, Wei. I won't get into the details of our strategic goals, but just really touching on the more salient ones with respect to this webcast today. It's really to foster and support research, scholarship, creative activities, and collaboration in STEM and non-STEM that supports our vision, to support faculty and faculty development, which improves STEM teaching, learning, retention, and of course, graduation of our over 470,000 students. And then of course, a lot of the work that we do in preparing our K through 12 teachers. The CSU is actually the largest entity in the state of California in producing our K through 12 teachers in our public school systems. Next slide, please, Wei. So let me give you a very quick background on how this project, for example, came to be in terms of some of the structure on how STEMnet plays a role there. So, basically, either an idea comes from my office or an idea comes from a campus faculty's department where it may be something that myself and my consultants, which are CSU faculty, generate an idea, and then we search for faculty from different campuses who may want to participate in a potential proposal. Or it may be where a faculty from a campus have an idea that they've crafted, but it may need some polishing. So they come to my office because of our ability to reach out to not only other faculty, but the leadership of campuses, we can help catalyze and facilitate the grant development. We then vet faculty where we are looking at a faculty that may or may not fit within the project, and we develop that team. In this case, with the project with Wei and others, we developed an NSF HSI STEM. A little background, we actually started wanting to submit an NSF IUS proposal, but we were so enthusiastic about our project that we actually transformed from an IUS into an HSI STEM. Then we get down into the writing of the proposal, where we draft the research questions, we may put together the interventions, we create the logic model, theory of change, and we may work on this for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, in this case, a year in developing the project. And then of course we submit it. And then in this case, with a thumbs up, we got the proposal funded, which was great. And then STEMnet works with the faculty and the universities in also the implementation and the assessment of the project. Next slide, please, Wei. So over the past 3.5 years or so, STEMnet has participated in crafting and catalyzing the development of 47 proposals, of which 21 have been funded, which is almost 45% success rate. This has been with 16 CSU campuses. In addition, we've worked with University of California Office of the President and UC campuses, as well as community colleges, as well as outside state of California institutions in generating grant funding in excess of $52 million. STEMnet also provides some seed funding for faculty to generate preliminary results that can go into proposal submissions. So we've provided $1 million there. And we also submit undergraduate support undergraduate student research, as well as do webcasts and podcasts, a little plug here, all things STEM. And in March, we actually hosted a conference at Cal Poly Pomona where we brought in over 140 faculty and administrators to share their best practices, to network, and grow their sponsored program activities. Next slide, please, Wei. So before I end my part of this presentation, a little over 3 years ago, actually, if I work it back even more, probably in March of 2020, I had the idea of having a webcast that would focus on bringing together faculty who are doing research or educational research in VR, AR, XR, MR, virtual reality, augmented, mixed reality in STEM teaching and learning. And next slide, please, Wei. I looked for faculty across the CSU, and you'll recognize some names there. You'll see Wei Wu and Vivian Lowe from Fresno State, and Abe Wolcott, who are on this grant, as well as a few other names across the CSU, doing some very, very innovative work in VR, XR, not only from the technical perspective, but also from the educational perspective. So from this evolved our current project, which has been great to work on, and we have a great time disseminating. And not to get too further ahead, it's now my time to transfer to Wei to talk a lot more on our project.
Thanks, Frank. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining us. So today our goal is trying to look at, when we look at online adaptation to foster student success, as Frank mentioned, that we all have this common belief that XR, which stands for extended reality, and it's an umbrella term that encapsulates, AR, VR, and AMR, could be really support active learning, and so we can actually enhance the student engagement as well as hopefully, improve their learning outcomes. However, what we find when we actually get together, discuss the ideas, we find out is actually there's so much claim, right? Especially there is a series of reports by Horizon, from EDUCAUSE talking about like they're so excited about this technology. It's going to be immediately making an impact on campuses, on student learning, and it must be adopted within 2 to 3 years. They have been talking about that since 2015, yet we're here today. How often do you see a STEM course actually have XR component in it, right? So we start to wonder why that's the case, why that's the case. So we have seen success from each other. We have a lot of champions from different CSU campuses doing wonderful things. So we get together and say, maybe instead of directly focus on students' transformation, what if we actually look at a faculty? What if we actually spend a little time to understand how can we actually get more faculty engaged in utilizing and integrating XR in the STEM classroom setting? Would that be interesting enough to make some have some impacts and to drive behavioral changes and to be able to support each other? So that's how this idea becomes what we call the active learning in introductory STEM courses with extended reality. That's what ALEX XR stands for. And of course, you can always remember that Alice Wonderland. So that's kind of like borrow that terminology there. So anyway, this is a 4 campus collaboration projects, including 3 CSU campuses like Fresno State, Sonoma State, San Jose State, as well as a local community college, Fresno City College there. Those are the PIs and the senior personnel. So our project have this, wonderful vision that, what we have done, all of us have individually done something that is success. What if we want trying to replicate the success? Do we have a recipe, right? Can we actually, engage faculty members from different campuses who have thought about doing this, but haven't really got the chance to look into this, or sometimes feel like intimidated of doing this alone? What if we do something together? What if we create like this group, what we call the faculty learning community, or maybe a community of practice model to its essence? And so can we actually learn, through structured innovation and through careful course redesign, through tryouts and through making failures, and learn from our failures and be able to move forward and truly to, generating some collective wisdom about what are some of the best approaches, to integrate XR in STEM classrooms. What are some of the barriers that actually can be, addressed by faculty, or sometimes what are some of the barriers are more intrinsic to the institutional context, so we need to talk to our administrators trying to get their buy-in. So that's the whole idea. Some more specific objectives there. Now, first thing, as I mentioned, the goal here at the very beginning really is trying to help our faculty members. Faculty members oftentimes are the change agents in the, in the STEM disciplines and STEM classrooms there. What if we can actually engage them to create this, wonderful learning community? What if we actually also, we all realize, as we're using different applications there, a lot of times we spend so much time trying to figure out, what's out there available for us to use, doesn't mean that we'll have to come up with our customized contents, etc. So we're trying to see, what if we do some pioneer job, we identify some off-the-shelf products there and actively experimenting with those applications and to provide our feedback and try those on our students and generating lessons learned and produce assessments accordingly. Can we actually turn those into more packaged courseware that later on can be shared to transfer to other practitioners and educators across the country? And of course, that actually touches upon number 3 as well. And the last really is, we're trying to look at, we talk about the benefits, the educational affordance of XR technology, but I'm sure that not everyone will like XR, you just cannot assume that. So how does XR, the pedagogical impacts, varies according to different backgrounds of our students? What if they, come from different cultural background? What if their ethnicity is different? What if their gender are different? What if they're just simply some people more interested in technology, some people are less interested in technology? How does actually impacts of the XR vary based upon those different, background information, etc. And to do this, we really invest a lot of time in our cohort building, which is the XR faculty learning community. So specifically, as I mentioned earlier, apparently is a community practice model, or you use, a very structured intervention. Going through a whole year, we engage those faculty members, trying to prepare and support them in their individual experiments. But at the same time, we do have some common, topics we would like to discuss among the group there. Look to each other, looking for answers and come up with solutions, and do some experiments and be able to share experiences, etc. So the cohort candidates we're trying to identify we're trying to identify people who have at least thought about, XR is really out there. It's coming. This technology is wonderful. I really want to do something. And at the same time, we want to look at faculty members who actually are teaching introductory STEM courses. The reason I haven't got a chance to talk about reason why we look at introductory STEM courses, right? So literature tells us, the first year experience, the first, at least the very beginning, at the introductory courses level, students tend to make a decision. If they had a good experience, they feel supported, they feel STEM is their thing, they tend to persist better, they actually tend to perform better academically and non-academically as well. So that's why we choose to look at introductory courses there. And the other things we want to look at is faculty members, they have to be genuinely interested in trying new things. We use the word bold, right? Because this is really like pioneer work. You have to try new things, jump out of your comfort zone. And also you are expected to do something, above and beyond, in addition to what your regular assignments as a faculty. So over the 3 years, we have recruited the 30 faculty members from all 4 campuses. As I go through those names and disciplines and ranks, whatever it is very apparent to us is we have a lot of lecturers actually are interested in utilizing XR in their classroom. That creates a very interesting, I'm not saying problem, I would say, but it's a unique scenario is because we know that lecturers are typically hired for teaching. They have extremely heavy teaching load. And through our experience working with our lecturers, all of a sudden this understanding about giving equitable access to, to people is not only limited to students, but also faculty. How can we actually help faculty and foster their success if they want to do something to help their students to be successful? We have to be mindful about our faculty as well. So what I'm showing here is a typical 1 year core activities and timeline, how the faculty members will be, joining and participating in the cohort activity. We start with a very interesting onboarding process there. We actually go together to a location. I know we talk about online adaptation here, but we still find this bonding is really important to be there, see each other. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that everybody get a chance to meet each other and say hi to each other and understand each other's backgrounds, their pursuits, and this sort of intention, why they are involved in this. Then we have those monthly meetings, continuously engage throughout the whole year to talk on different topics, and hopefully those topics will be aligning to what they're trying to know about, so they can actually confidently integrating XR in their coursework design and trials. So, and also faculty members are expected to conduct 2 rounds of trials of XR courses and be able to be very mindful and meticulous about what they do towards what they expect to see and how they actually measure success, etc. So this is just a very quick list of topics we cover in our monthly meeting. And we talk about XR 101. We talk about coursework design, use backward design approach. We talk about understanding the infrastructure technology available to at each individual campuses. We talk about how we actually intentionally build equity-minded practice and culturally responsive pedagogy into our coursework design, et cetera, et cetera. So all those information will be actually available on our website. We're going to share the website later on, but you get an idea about throughout the semester, we do have a lot of different diverse topics that all serve the purpose to make the XR integration experience be more meaningful and intentional. I want to, quickly go show some, courseware design efforts from our faculty members. So we at the end of their, their cohort experience there, we have a little, report out. Oftentimes we require faculty to produce like a little poster there, to showcase what they have done, what are some of the lessons learned, what's the next steps of planning and, ideas, etc. So this is a architecture design course, introductory level, and faculty use, polyscan, using Polycan to scan models for students to be able to better understanding spatial relationships. This is essential to architects, in the field at the very beginning of receiving their education. We have faculty looking at, gas laws, understand chemistry, using the applications here. And we also have faculty trying to teach students about fundamental mechanical engineering concepts, such as sand casting. How do you actually conducting a well-organized sand casting to be able to understand not only just concepts, but also trying to develop some hands-on skills without really, rely on physical labs, which is oftentimes very limited in terms of the space. And there are faculty members teaching about short circuits, teach about circuits. And not only they have to understand, what are some of the components of circuits, but sometimes faculty want to teach students something about high voltage circuits. They ask the student to do physical, circuits work may considered to be risky, but in a VR environment, there are a lot of possibilities you can try out, and you don't have to worry about, failure, etc. And then this is more about neural anatomy, teach students how to actually understand brain structures, understand, different types of anatomy components and neural relationships between different, brain structures there. And this one about chemistry, teach about elementary fundamental element tables and balance of equations, etc., using some off-the-shelf products as well. And this one is more about, look at how we actually utilize XR as a means of conveying, conducting research, and to be able to actually allow students to narrate about the research activities, etc. So that being said, some of the high-level outcomes we find out, because again, as we said, we are really focused on prepare our faculty members to drive behavioral changes there. So we are fairly intentional or very careful in terms of, what are some of the barriers and pathways to, that actually barriers to stop while faculty from innovating, and pathways that could possibly generating from this knowledge from this cohort to help peer faculty members to take the risk and actually to join the efforts to start to look into XR. So we look at different lenses of potential barriers, such as financial barriers of faculty themselves, as well as the institutional barriers there. So as you see here, the financial barriers, obviously the cost of procurement still is fairly, large there, even though the cost of technology, like a hardware, is going down, but the software is really expensive when it comes to very good content, solid contents there. And in most contents that are proprietary, you are looking at a whole package. It might not necessarily fit into your course schedule you already established. So sometimes you have to really go through and pick what you need, and hopefully you can get a good, a deal out of it. And also the cost of maintenance, having devices, stored in a centralized location so you can better manage those devices become a barrier as well. You will be shocked nowadays on the state side, university systems there. The short of staff has been brought up as one of the key barriers to any type of innovation on our campuses. From the faculty perspective, they really don't a lot of STEM faculty members, especially engineering faculty members, speak on myself, is we really don't have a whole lot understanding about instructional design. So when we actually take technology innovation, we try to utilize that in the classroom setting. We have knowledge of the content we want to deliver. And we may know something about technology as well already, but the most challenging part for us is trying to be intentionally look at the pedagogical aspects. How do we actually make sure that this way of integration is going to achieve the outcomes we are planning on, right? And also lack of time. This is even more obvious for lecturers who are, teaching full-time 5-6 courses easily in the state university system, still have time to do all those innovation, right? So you can also see there's institutional barriers, et cetera, like not all the institutions have the dedicated spaces you can do those experiments. You don't really have a whole lot, system knowledge that they have IT support, they have technician support, etc. But pathways really is, they all believe the outstanding leadership commitment really is the key. In our case, our provost has been extremely supportive to this particular projects there, and our department chairs, deans, they're all aware of this is coming. This is actually the cutting edge technology. We should really invest time and money to investigate it, and also providing seed grants, what Frank's office is doing. For the faculty perspective, that we were so glad, to hear that faculty member saying, having a cohort like a community of practice like what we have here is really one of the key reasons they may even consider, right, change the practices to be able to adopt innovation, collaborating with each other, and also have scaffolded learning design, so that way they are, supported during those coursework design process there. Having our students, it's very interesting. We also find out through our classroom visit and observations, having a student intern in the classroom help faculty to deal with the technology aspect so they can focus on teaching is a huge, differentiating factor. They feel so much more comfortable and so much confident when they're actually implementing technology innovations if we have some sort of student interns in that classroom to support them. High-level impacts on student outcomes, if you remember that we have 3 objectives there, learning, which questions there, we're trying to understand first, barriers and pathways, but also we want to understand the pedagogical impacts on the students. So that's really from the reported data from those individual faculty, their coursework designs, et cetera. Some high-level, observation is they are universal, across the board, they're better engagement being observed, right? There's a lot of acceptance, high acceptance rates of XR in all redesign courses there. Students, in generally speaking, they really, really want to see new technology in the classroom. The expectation to, that XR should be more widely used is really the collective voice from our students. However, the learning games are so different, right? There's some very modest learning games. There's someone, for instance, there's a biology professor tried 2 semesters, same class, introductory biology classes there. The learning performance based upon that module, the differences is 30–40%. We were all really surprised by that drastic difference because he didn't do anything different between the 2 sessions, except for 1 session was delivered in a series of XR modules. So but we don't want to claim that is the case across board. So we observed very varied learning games, but there is no specific correlation, however, observed between outcomes and the student demographics yet, and mostly because it's the same size and also the difference between different disciplines there. Okay. We also had observed some trending, things and opportunities and patterns that could actually invite more investigation. So, for instance, several faculty members, have been thinking about customize their XR development. They are just tired of getting those expensive third-party contents, yet doesn't really fit into the curriculum. If you want to do something else, you have to buy a new package there. It just added additional financial burden on our students, right? So they are thinking about customized, XR development and have student assistant help them. And it seems to be very, at least the preliminary results is very encouraging. And also we realize, sometimes, at introductory level, courses level especially, you don't really need a full-fledged application. Sometimes non-code minimum viable XR is good enough to engage students and actually explain concepts well to the students. So maybe that even suggests, maybe we should try something by ourselves. How about we try actually faculty and students co-creating some contents there, right? And another thing we also find it's very interesting, as you see from this little graphics to our right, is individual XR is great, but students now really enjoy learning together. So the social XR experience becomes really, really interesting. What I'm presenting here in this little figure here is we have an architecture class there. We use this spatial platform, which is multi-user VR platform that allows students to come in to design and critique each other's design, and even inviting industry advisory board members to join this design critique session during review session, provide feedback. They really enjoy that experience. So that really wraps up my presentation. I know it's very general, but if we can actually visit our website, we have a lot more information there, such as resources, our meeting minutes, and some curriculum related materials you can actually consider download and adopt later. But that's my presentation, and I believe that Delia wants us to actually save the question till last. So I will actually turn it over to Anna.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So let me share my screen. And yeah, the NSF STEM Hub is an amazing resource to, get inspiration and get your creative juices flowing. So again, thanks for the opportunity. I will be presenting our NSF-funded projects and its results. The title is Curing Ocean Plastic in Pandemic Time, and it's a collaboration between the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and my institution, National University. So I would like to introduce you to my institution. National University is a private nonprofit university in California. We have on-site campuses in San Diego, Los Angeles, and Fresno, as well as an extensive online presence. We serve mostly non-traditional students, a diverse older population. We have a high military student presence. In fact, our university was founded by a veteran. Our courses are very unique in that they are very short. So a course is 4 weeks long. So for example, a science course with a lecture and a lab component would count as 2 courses for a total of 8 weeks. Now, students only take 1 course at a time, so that allows them to focus on the material and also schedule their classes considering the schedule of their lives. So this is particularly important, for example, military students who may get deployed at, with no notice. Now, as most institutions with diverse student bodies, we strive to increase students' interest and success in STEM careers and programs. And evidence shows that course based on undergraduate students' experiences of cures, and that's where the title of our presentation comes from, are known to increase both. So this is what our project centered on. In 2018, we received an NSF HSI award to implement a cure centered on microbes attaching to ocean plastic in collaboration between National University and Scripps Institution of Oceanography. So Scripps SIO is a part of the University of California system, UCSD. And these institutions are really very different, particularly regarding their focus, teaching versus research, and also student population. So the cure was implemented in our courses, both for non-science majors in their general biology lab course and the bachelor's in biology majors for both lower divisions, general bio lab, and upper divisions, molecular biology lab. After the pandemic, we piloted an additional group. It's what we call the health majors. So these are mostly pre-nursing and pre-allied health students. And the course that we used was a typical 200-level microbiology lab. And I do want to highlight the incredible role and participation that graduate students and postdocs of our co-PI, Jeff Bowman, lab did. So Jeff Bowman was an amazing co-PI, but really his graduate student and postdoc did an amazing job, facilitating this project. So in a nutshell, the science of the cure is related to the bacterial colonization of floating plastic. And our collaborator, Emilia DeForce, she participated in the original research and provided the connection to the Scripps researcher and eventually the locating this cure at the Scripps pier. So that's where we deployed and collected the samples. I really recommend, it's fun to watch, even if you are not into this particular research, a documentary called Into the Gyra from 2010. And this provides a great introduction to the topic, and it's required for students to watch so they can get the background of what the research is about. As for the details of the actual cures, the actual modules and the activities that were done in the lab, I refer you to the website CureNet. This is an NSF-funded collection of cures, so people can, look at the different content and decide if you want to adopt them. So as you can see, this is a modular setup. So from non-majors all the way to upper division majors, molecular biology, we have similar modules, some more in detail, others less. But there was one thing that was consistent and common to all the all the cures independently of the courses, and this was the field trip experience. So students visited the Scripps Pier. They participated in activities such as the deploying samples, collecting samples, processing of samples. All throughout, they were in a contact with Scripps researchers. So, you know, the grad students, a postdoc, Jeff himself would be there. And so there was all this direct informal interaction, and then we had a Q&A activity in a more formal setting. You know, we go to a classroom for these interactions. And the assessment of the project was done using retrospective surveys and focus group interviews. And I'm going to briefly show the questions. Basically, these are 15 questions in which we ask students to look back and reflect on their knowledge of interest in these following aspects before and after the field trip experience. And you see that there are 4 major themes of the questions. So knowledge about Scripps and their history and the institution and the research it does. We call the research at NU that was more specific, related to the plastic, the ocean plastic project, also scientific skills, you know, and this was directly derived for course learning objectives, and finally the interest in science. So everything we started in, you know, end of 2018, and everything was fine in 2019, and then March 2020 came around, and with you know, COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to make lemonade from lemons and adapted the experience to an online delivery. And the slide shows the adaptation. So basically, all the content that could be delivered online, lectures, videos, etc., we put them online. We added them to the LMS, the learning management system. And what we did for the field trip part is that we had already existing footage and images. Later in 2020, when the researchers, we were able to return to the pier to continue the research part, we made videos and images and kind of posted it as we were doing it. So students would say, oh, we collected the samples this morning, and then we are processing it in the afternoon, and here are the results the next day, to try to keep it kind of real. And I'm just thinking how virtual reality could help us to even make it you know, more impactful. The Q&A session, so that panel where the students were able to interact with the scientists, we migrated to Zoom. And Zoom allowed us to do some additional tweaks. So for example, we surveyed the students before the Q&A session and asked them, what are you interested in? So we would have this general, let's say, assembly talking in general about the project, but then the scientists would go to breakout rooms and students could ask more details, you know, ocean plastic pollution or science careers and so on. So in 2021, we returned on site, but we did keep the online content for the online courses, because we realized that by moving online, we dramatically enhanced our reach, because the on-site courses are much more limited and can only be in San Diego. Online courses for non-majors can happen anywhere, and we have a lot of those sections. So we also kept the Zoom Q&A even for the on-site courses, because again, we realized that even if only few students would actually go to the pier in person, we could still reach many more students who were interested in this topic. And another thing we did that year was to add this health majors group on the 200 level microbiology class. And we crunched the data, we submitted, and eventually, so this year, beginning of this year, we got our results published. So this is what I'm going to talk in the next few slides. It's Education Research International and Open Access Journal, so you can look up the results more in detail. So this slide shows our student demographics. You can see that we had a huge reach once we moved online. More or less, kind of around half of the students who participated actually returned the survey questions. And if you look at the pie charts, we can observe, the demographics is very varied. So National University is not only a Hispanic serving institution, it's also an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. Plus, in the last pie chart, you can see that we have this very high military student population. Now, regarding the survey questions, those 15 questions, when we look at the before and after scores and compared on-site and online modalities, we saw that it's not only the after scores are significantly higher than the before scores for all the questions, but also that in the before scores, so before the field trip, the online students had much lower scores compared to the on-site students. But after the field trip, the online and on-site student scores were not significantly different. It's kind of, even online, the impact of the field trip experience was so large that it caught up with the on-site students. So after that, we were very curious to see, well, how this worked, across majors and courses and so on. And we had to, it was a bit challenging to analyze it because we had all those 15 questions, 2 modalities, 3 majors, different courses. So we tried different ways to analyze it. And eventually we got to, it was recommended by reviewers that we bin the survey scores by theme. So this is what we did eventually, that we had those 4 themes, and then we had scores binned by each of those themes, and then we look at the gains between the different variables. Sorry. And first we decided to run this MANOVA no need to details. It was, we crunched all the numbers at the same time to look what were the sources of variation in those results. And this showed that the largest factor in variation was time. Clearly, before and after scores were very different, followed by theme and major. So the effect of modality was actually less than 1% according to this MANOVA. So it's very negligible compared to the other factors which show the impact of online delivery. After that, we started, looking at the data by majors and other factors. And to the left, you can see a heat map of the 3 groups of majors gain in the 4 themes. And, the lighter the color, the higher the gain. And clearly the highest gains were for the non-majors. And you can see more in detail in the bar graph to the right, all those asterisks of significance. So there was, for all the themes, the non-majors had a significant gain. For majors, the only aspect where they truly, reflected that they had a much higher knowledge was related to the Scripps research and the actual ocean plastic research. But, they already had a higher knowledge, or they reported a higher knowledge of science skills and clearly interest of science. So they didn't have that much room to grow compared to the non-majors. And health majors were kind of in between the 2 groups. Just showing 2 representative quotes. So we got a lot of granular impressions from open-ended questions and focus group interviews. Overarching themes was, how amazing, important was to see real research, especially in such a relevant topic as plastic pollution. And, students really appreciated having that direct interactions with the scientist. I need to brag in the sense of, these are anecdata, but students who went through the field trip experience, some of them were really interested in, following the, doing research, and we had them as undergraduate researcher doing additional projects. Interestingly, most of them were already some kind of either science major or health majors, but they presented at conferences. One of them did an undergraduate publication, and they are overall amazing. And it's just warms my heart to see how enthusiastic they were and they are about this topic. Okay, so these are the summary and the future plans. So clearly online, we were able to replicate the impact, at least based on the survey, retrospective surveys we did. So we plan to keep doing this and adding more online content wherever we can about STEM, about research, and so on. Also in our student population, which again, it's an older population, we saw that non-majors, non-science majors, they don't like science, they leave those science classes towards the end of their majors. So we didn't get the, oh my God, I like science, I'm going to switch my major effect. No, it was too late for them. So we plan to put some, simpler STEM and CURE modules in earlier courses, general education courses that all students have to take in the beginning to kind of pique their interest about science. And, we love the Scripps peer research, but it's geographically limited and logistically complex. So we are exploring other cures which would look at plastic pollution in general from anywhere. It could be, and particularly we're interested in exploring students' communities. So, and then this was done with BS biology students, but we want to develop more like data, computer, bioinformatics kind of modules to bring in students from computer science and data science majors. So this just showing, you need a village, so wonderful collaborators, external evaluators, students, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm ready for any questions together with the others.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.